Good morning, my beautiful brothers and sisters in Yeshua. Today is Thursday, the 14th of August, 2025. It is 10:10 a.m. here in Australia. I hope you're doing very well and I hope you've been blessed. I just recorded a 40-minute video and I didn't have any sound on it. So I'm starting again. But I'm going to try and sort of wrap this video up a little bit quicker. I hope you are doing very well, brothers and sisters. Basically, the thing of my video today is I want to show and prove to you that we are coming to the end of Satan's little season. And I'm just going to explain my map a little bit more. Oh my goodness, I talked about it so much before. I want to cry, but it's all good. Anyway, let's have a look at the map. We'll start off with that. Okay, in my previous video, I showed you that I'm pretty confident, as much as I can be until I see otherwise, that this is the correct timeline, brothers and sisters. So we have the siege of Jerusalem from the year 66 AD to 70 AD. This was exactly 1,260 days, exactly 3.5 years, exactly 42 months. And the reason why this is the Great Tribulation, this period here, this 3.5 years, a time like never before and never again afterwards, is because in this time period, the most horrendous things on earth happened. Okay, so in 66 AD, it was the Passover. Okay, so it is required that all, communities, all the tribes come from all the areas to Jerusalem, because that is, what you're supposed to do. So there was hundreds and thousands of people that had traveled into Jerusalem to celebrate Passover, okay? This is when the Romans first attacked. This is when the siege first started in 66 AD on Passover. They were very smart, the Romans. They waited until they could get as many people as possible and in a contained place. I mean, you couldn't have it any more easier than that, okay? Therefore started the siege of Jerusalem. Now, the reason why the famine, the pestilence, and all that other stuff goes with this is because at this time when the first, attack started from the Romans, you had those in Judea, okay? You had those in Judea that 150 years prior to Jesus, there was this group called the Essenes, and I'm going to show you something in a little bit about a prophecy from the Essenes, and they were the true people who started the prophecy about Jesus. This is why those people knew when Jesus rode in on a donkey where he was going to be, that he was going to be there at that time, okay, because they knew the work of the Essenes. And anyway, so that is why those in Judea knew to look out for this stuff. They knew that when they saw the army surrounding Jerusalem, or, when there was some kind of desolation was going to be very close, to flee. And that is what they did. And those people who listened, who are followers of the Essenes' teachings, they're the ones who fled to Petra, okay, into the city in the rock. And the rest of the people left behind, which was a lot, they were so zealous of their temple, as they still are to this day, or, of their traditions and stuff. They were so zealous of their temple that they literally forgot to sow a crop, okay, because all they were doing was defending the temple, because it was just a constant barrage. Like, Rome would come in, they tried to attack the wall, they realised they couldn't knock it down, so they would go back and regroup. And in that time, those in Judea who listened would flee, right? But the rest of the crew, they were like, protect the temple, there's the most sacred thing. Even Jesus was like, what's more important? Like, what's in the temple or the temple itself? Anyway, so, like I said, because they were so zealous of this temple and that's all they were concerned about, they forgot to sow a crop. So what happens in 67 AD? There's nothing to sow, okay? This is where the famine started, and then the pestilence started and everything like this. And this is also where it says, when Jesus was on the cross, he was like, to the women who were weeping, he's like, women, don't weep for me, weep for yourselves and your children. Speaking of that, Jesus is very matter of fact. When he says, in your generation, or some of you standing here will see, He's not talking about the future, brothers and sisters. He's talking about that generation, those people who are standing in front of him, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, his disciples, all the people who witnessed all this. Okay, so we have, and so going back to the women, these women, like I said, because there was no crops being sown, the famine came. And it got to the point, like this is all documented historical fact, right? It got to the point where they were sneaking out in the middle of the night to get a few blades of grass. And then it got so bad that it got to the point where the women literally were eating their children, okay? Because the famine was just so, and that's why Jesus said, don't cry for me, cry for yourselves and your children, okay? And, so then we have the destruction of AD, 70 AD, the destruction of the temple. And, I forgot to add the most important thing. In 70 AD, this is when Satan was bound into the pit. Okay, this is when Satan was bound in the pit. So we can go to Revelation 20. We can have a look. Okay, and I saw, actually, look, let's do this. I will show you exactly in Revelation where the great and terrible day of the Lord happens. Okay, notice it's the day of the Lord, okay? And 70 AD and God's wrath on 70 AD. And then I can also show you where the end battle happens, just by scripture. Okay, so this is Revelation 19. So this is describing 70 AD when Jesus and his armies and the chariots and everything were seen in the sky, which Josephus writes about. And this also goes with Revelation 12 with the war in heaven. And Michael, the archangel, who is the chief warring angel, if you will, he was the one that cast Satan and 1/3 of his angels down. And you'll notice in Matthew 24, it says that 1/3 of the sun, 1/3 of the moon, and 1/3 of the day and night likewise is darkened because of this particular event, okay? So we read here, and I saw, this is from 19 verse 11, and I saw heaven opened, and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he does judge and make war. His eyes as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had his name written that no man knew but himself. His clothes with a vesper dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven, brothers and sisters, see, Christians think today that we are the heavenly army that come back down and fight. No, this is the armies which were in heaven, followed him upon the white horse, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. Out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he shall treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and the wrath of Almighty God. And he had on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun. Okay, this is the same as Malachi 4. Says, I saw the Son of Righteousness rising with healing in his wings. Okay, that goes together with the millennial reign. That's, when Jesus came back and the millennial kingdom started, the Son of Righteousness, S-U-N, gave healing in his wings. It's all about frequency, sound, sunlight. Anyway. And he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourself together unto the supper of the great God. Okay, this is different than Revelation 20, which it talks about, Satan deceived all the nations to come up to the camp of the saint, and then fire comes down and destroys them all. This is a different event, brothers and sisters. that you may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains and the flesh of mighty men, the flesh of horses. Okay, horses. This is a key word here, brothers and sisters. We don't have horses now. We've got cars. And them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. Okay, that goes again with Revelation 12, where they're running into the mountains and the caves and asking the rocks to fall on them. As I shown you in my last video, that's exactly what it said that happened in 70 AD, that they were so overcome with suffering that they were literally begging the rocks to fall on them. And then it goes on and says, I saw the beast, okay, that's Nero, and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. What happens? And the beast was taken. Okay, because remember, I know you're like, oh, that sounds like Revelation 20, okay, because he's gathering together to make war. No, because in Revelation 20, it doesn't say the beast was taken. Here he was taken already. This is in 70 AD. The beast was destroyed. That was Nero. And with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him. That is Paul. I know people hate it when I say that, but it is Paul. And I'll show you. I've got a chart here to show you that Paul is a direct descendant of Herod, the one who chopped John the Baptist's head off. Okay, there's a reason why Saul, before he became Paul, went around killing all the Christians and stuff. Why did he have authority to do that? Because he was like a nephew of Herod. A leopard don't change its stripes or spots or whatever that saying is, brothers and sisters, okay? He was planted in there to infiltrate Jesus' message, okay? Whether you like it or not, it's the truth. He has a complete different message than what Jesus came. Jesus never said, fall down, worship me, and, you need to be covered in my blood to be saved. This was all Paul's gospel, brothers and sisters. It's all about works, and that kind of stuff. And Jesus was not about that. He said, good master, what must I do to be saved? Love your mum and dad, don't lie, don't steal. I do all those things, what else? And then Jesus like, if you want to be perfect, then sell everything and follow me. And, the guy walked away. And then also, what is the greatest commandment is to love God, the Father, with all your heart, soul and mind, and love each other. That's it. That's it, okay? So, and the beast was taken, and the false prophet that wrought miracles before him. Remember, Paul did lots of miracles, brothers and sisters, lots of miracles. And this is why it's so important to believe, and not believe, to know that Jesus wasn't fluffing around when he said that John was the last prophet, okay? He was the last. John was the red carpet to roll out before Jesus' appearance and stuff like that. Then needs no more. Paul didn't need to come with another gospel and rewrite the script. That was done purely, Jesus talks about this, even if the elect, if possible, could be deceived, because this sounds so good and so close to the truth. So anyway, which he had deceived them, which had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These were both cast alive into the lake of fire with burning with brimstone. So you don't have to even worry about the beast and the false prophet anymore, brothers and sisters. This is what I really need to stress to you, is the way they have deceived us is with futurism. Placing all of this in the future and making you stressed and worried that, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to go through Armageddon. I'm going to have to get my head cut off. I'm going to have to do what Jesus did and die. No, Jesus did it all for all of us. It doesn't need to be done again. We don't need to go around being martyrs. He never wanted that, ever. This was just a beautiful, evil plot of the churches to try at first to annihilate this movement. And then when they realised they couldn't annihilate it, they infiltrated it, okay? And so the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with flesh. Now I want you to notice here that that Jesus is in heaven, right? This is the armies in heaven. So in the sky, this is going down. And this is exactly goes along with what Josephus writes, that there was this moment where, the heavens basically went open and we saw all the chariots in the sky, and there was a big war in the heavens. This is Revelation 12, the war in heaven where Satan gets cast down. Okay, so that's that one. Now we go to Revelation 20. And so Jesus has just had this war and the destruction and wrath of Father, the King. This is, he came down and basically burned up their city. All the parables, the wedding parables that said, that God sent his servants, they didn't listen to his servants, they killed them or bashed them up, whatever, and then the father or the king sends his son, surely they'll listen to him. And then the bad dudes are like, no, he's got the inheritance, let's kill him. And then it says the king or the father was wrath, and he came down and burned up their cities. This is judgment on them, brothers and sisters, not on us. Remember, Jesus came for the lost of Israel, for no one else. He didn't need to come for the prostitutes or the tax collectors or the publicans or the good and the bad, He came to save the lost because they are under the Yahwehian system. And Yahweh is the devil, okay? Anybody who's new here will be like, oh, what the... But I've got many videos on, you can search YouTube yourself. There's many videos out there. Type in Yahweh is Satan, you'll see. But anyway, so let's get on to Revelation 20. So this is just, you've got to remember that there was no verses or whatever. So it goes from, and the remnant was slain. Okay, so this is this big army that, fought in the heavens. They had the heavenly war first, as above, so below. And then on the ground, the Romans annihilated and finished them off, right? And the rest who were slain, all the birds of the field filled their guts with flesh. So that's the last thing. And then we go to Revelation 20. And then it says, I saw an angel coming out of heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand, and lay hold of the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Okay, that was 70 AD. Okay, 70 AD. After all this terrible stuff has happened, and Father came down with his son and with Michael the archangel, had the war in heaven, the war on Jerusalem at the same time. And then we had Satan, because it says in Revelation 12 that, that Satan and his angels fought with Michael and his angels, and the devil and his angels lost, and there was no more place forever in heaven anymore, and he was cast down to the earth. And like I said, with 1/3 the angels, which is why the sky, the sun and the moon was all darkened by 1/3. Okay, and cast him into the pit, shut him up, put a seal on him. This is very important, that he should deceive the nations no more. So he can't do nothing. He is trapped, he is bound. Okay, and I'm going to show you where he came down. This is really amazing. I found where he landed, brothers and sisters, where he was cast. Okay, so in those 1,000 years, brothers and sisters, he cannot deceive because he is bound. So that's why you have to understand that the millennial reign was perfect, because there was no evil that could deceive. So this is why, the truth. Jesus came with the truth, and he got it, and all of his saints that were to reign with him are basically the saints from when Jesus first started his ministry until 70 AD. They had to go through that 3.5 years, and be faithful to the end and they shall be saved, whatever. And so those are the ones that reigned with Christ during those thousands of years, the 1,000 years, sorry. And and in that time, they spread that message, they spread the truth, they set up beautiful buildings and cathedrals and healing centers, and they did this. I've got a lady on my last video who's like, why if there was healing centers in Tartaria and stuff like that, it couldn't have been when Jesus was, because there would have been no sickness, right? There wasn't any sickness then because everyone was in perfect frequency and health, but they did that for us. They did that for us, brothers and sisters, so there'd be remnants of the truth, and there'd be remnants of how we can be healed, and for in that little season which we live. And that is why when we look at Tartarian architecture, we're like, no friggin' way that this was done by a man and a chisel and with people who are still on horse and cart. This is crazy town. But it's the truth, and it makes absolutely complete sense. I've got proof here and videos on, the 1,000 years being added to the calendar. And they did all this to cover it up, brothers and sisters. Time is their greatest asset, because they can manipulate time, because it's not even real. Time is a concept which they have manipulated so well. And so anyway, let's continue. And they cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and put a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, pardon me, he must be loosed a little season. And look at this. And I saw thrones, and upon them, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God. That's between Jesus' ministry in 70 AD, which had not worshipped the beast, Nero, or his image, any of his pagan statues, or received the mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. Okay, and this is interesting. I'm seeing this just now. I'm just going to blurt this out because this is how I do things. Reading that verse there, but the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This could go very well along with the fact that I believe that we've been here from the beginning. I believe we've been here from, let's say, Adam and Eve's time, Moses' time, Noah's time, Elijah's time, Enoch's time, whatever, Jesus' time. And this is why we know that we know the truth, because we've been there. And, I've talked about reincarnation is real. Elijah is John the Baptist, so forth and so forth. So this, are we, you and me, the rest of the dead, did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished? Okay, so maybe that could go well along with what I believe. So in 1775, when Satan was released, we were not alive until then, okay? And then now, for 250 years, we've probably gone through a few reincarnation cycles of learning different, maybe in different races, different cultures, different poverty, or, all this type of stuff. Oh, I've got a spam coming on my phone. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. Are we the rest of the dead? And we don't live again until the 1,000 years were finished? So, we all started this thing. Well, that would make sense, that would make sense, so that there is always some kind of tie. There's always some kind of red scarlet string that ties all of this together, and it can't be lost. Look, it makes sense to me, okay? But the rest of the dead did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Okay, so that's the first resurrection, brothers and sisters. That is, in 70 AD, when the destruction of Jerusalem happened, and those were resurrected. Oh my goodness, those people, those souls, those saints were resurrected and then reigned with him for 1,000 years. That's the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. Okay, the second death, this is where we're living now. Okay, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. See, they're the first resurrection after 70 AD, and they reigned with Jesus for 1,000 years. Okay, so, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, 1775. And he shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. Okay. So that's really for his little season, the 250 years, that's all his mission is to deceive the nations. Okay, it's not like Revelation 12 where it says, the dragon was wroth with the woman, and then he went out to make war with the remnants of her seed. No, that happened, back then in 70 AD. Okay, so and how he made war with the remnants of her, the woman's seed, is by those 1,000 years. Can you imagine the plans that Satan would have devised and stuff? Yes, he went out to make war definitely with the saints and stuff, and I think the last 250 years there's probably been a lot of war on the saints, Anyway, and they went up to the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. So like I said, the camp of the saints has got to be up around this ice wall. I don't know if, because remember I said I started a video and got 40 minutes into it realising I hadn't had sound. But anyway, so this is really what space is, brothers and sisters. It's not up in the air and all that kind of thing. It's outside each ice wall, okay? And we're in this middle one here, and outside of this ice wall, I'm positive, is the camp of the saints. And speaking of the camp of the saints, a very interesting thing, I'm going to show you some more stuff about it. But I've done videos last year on the fact that the North Pole is actually floating and moving and is heading towards Siberia. That is incredibly important for what I'm going to show you a little bit later on about where Satan actually landed when he was cast out. Okay, So basically, this is why Putin and Trump getting together and having this meeting in Alaska is incredible, brothers and sisters. We're so close. We're so close, because if Trump and Putin work together, then, the army, it's there, the preparation of this Camp of the Saints thing's unbelievable. And also to what our planets are, like Mars, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, all that. Yes, you can look at them in a telescope, but what they are, brothers and sisters, is they are the angels that were the head of the deception of bringing us down here. And it says that they are encapsulated in eternal darkness until the day of judgment. So that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a captured angel that was very naughty, that, deceived us all down to this prison planet. And they're stuck up there until the day of judgment. That's what those things are, like planets, okay? But what space is not up there, it's out there. It's out there. That's why the truth is out there, right? So that's that. What else was I doing? we're looking at, that's right, we're looking at Revelation 20. Okay, so, and then they went up on the breadth of the earth, encompassed the camp of the saints about the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. Okay, so this is the end. There's no more. Okay, let's use some logic, brothers and sisters. Those of you who are like, you're crazy to say that the millennial reign has already happened. Here is a perfect example. Let's use logic right here, okay? Okay, so Satan has gathered all these people together by deception, and they're going to go up to the camp of the saints, where Jesus is and those saints are, and like God's favorite city, and they're going to and the amount of who is the sands of the sea, and they're going to go up there, right? And then it says God puts fire out of heaven and devours them. Okay, then it goes on to say that the devil was cast into the lake of fire. So that's the end. That's the end of them, brothers and sisters. So tell me how and why a millennial 1,000-year reign should be after this event. Okay, because if you want to put the millennial reign after this event, that's just wrong. That's scripturally wrong and like just out of order. It can't be afterwards, because there will be no one to deceive. Everything is gone, diminished, extinguished. You know what I'm saying? It cannot be in the future. It has to have been in the past. And it isn't for us, brothers and sisters. The millennial reigning with Christ. You've got to remember that in very short time, brothers and sisters, we're going into eternity. We don't need 1,000 special years. We're going into eternal special years of awesomeness and the most incredibleness that you could ever comprehend. Okay? We don't need those special 1,000 years. Those 1,000 years were a reward for the most horrific time in history to be a believer and to have faith. And those people were rewarded. Jesus even said, anybody who leaves their mum, their dad, or anything behind and comes and follows me, his reward will be 100 times as much as he's given. That is very fair, that those people who had their heads chopped off, who were burned, probably burned and all the things, like go read about Nero, what he did. He set this part of Rome on fire, and it caught along really, really, really bad, caught on to other places really bad, and ended up devastating this particular place. He decided to blame it on the Christians, and that's what started this whole Colosseum thing, where throw the Christians in, with the lions and whatever, and let's have entertainment for it. He was an asshole, brothers and sisters. He killed all of his family, including his mother, so that he would be, top dog. So they deserved those 1,000 years of complete peace, perfect frequency, harmony, everything. What we're waiting for is the wrap up, the end game over. The emergence of the new heaven, the new earth. And just to throw it in there, once this goes down, this whole fire coming out of heaven from God, I think that's like probably a solar flash, or no, it can't be. It literally has to be fire. It has to be fire, because fire is the only thing that cleanses. See, we are going to inherit the earth. Remember, that's what Jesus said. Those that love God will inherit the earth, okay? We're not inheriting heaven and everything else. We're inheriting this beautiful place down here, but it's going to be cleansed away from all the parasites of evil and all that sickness and death and whatever. And I think while this Satan and his peeps are going up to this area and getting ready to do this final battle, I think this is when this 3-eye Atlas, whatever, which I believe is the New Jerusalem, the mothership, I believe that's we're actually going to be beamed up into those ships, which are effectively our arks. You got to remember, we're living in 2025. We're not in, the year, 30 AD anymore. We've got to think of why things were described the way they were described. Look at Ezekiel. He goes off on a chariot, into the sky, and people followed him and watched him, and they've seen all this happen. So it's not something that's not possible. But this is 100% the end. The millennial reign. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for us to be raptured, for the wicked to go through the 7-year tribulation, and then, everybody get their heads cut off or killed or whatever, and then have 1,000 years where we're just chilling with Jesus, and then reopen the hatch again. Like, in those 1,000 years, it's what? So Satan's just bound for 1,000 years and everybody else is dead. What? So after the 1,000 years, you're telling me that Satan is going to resurrect all these evil people? So can he do that? No, because it's in the past, brothers and sisters. It is a reward for those beautiful saints that gave their life for the testimony of Jesus, when the time was the worst time in history and never will be so again. So let's continue. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and false prophet are. See, they're already there, the beast and false prophet, and they're going to be tormented day and night forever. I heard a sermon years and years ago that said that the sun was actually hell. But anyway, and I saw, and look, again, this proves it, and I saw a great white throne, to him that sat on it, from whose face and heaven fled away, and there was found no more place for them. So, brothers and sisters, this is the end. And then everyone gets judged, the small and the dead, the great, and the books were opened. See, this, excuse me, I'm just going to have a drink. And soft drink. It's not alcohol for those little bitty bodies that want to have something to say. Anyway, and I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it, whose, what was I going to say? Oh, yes, and the books were open. This goes along with what I was saying about, the Feast of Trumpets, and then you've got the 10 days of awe, and in those 10 days of awe is the books of life and death. They're opened. And it's said that you've got 10 days for repentance, and on the 10th day, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, the books are shut, your fate is sealed. And because it's a Jubilee, this is more important. This is the most important Feast of Trumpets. This is the most important Day of Atonement we're ever going to have. And this is why I think, we could be looking at another 10 days after September 23 and 24. Okay, so the books were open. Another book was open, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books. Okay, so everyone's getting judged now, good and bad. So this is where our rewards are coming in now. So this 1,000 years was the reward of those saints in their time. Now we're talking our rewards, okay? And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their work. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. See, there's no more death, there's no more hell. This is the second death. And whoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. All right, so we've got all this happen simultaneously, okay? You've got, Satan and his crew coming up to the camp of the saints. Fire comes down, the books are opened. Then look what happens next. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven, the first earth were passed away. So there you go, passed away. So this is when we're on the ships, on the arks. Father's going to clean this parasitic earth up, and then we're going to come back down. And it's going to come down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And and God will be with men forever, and men with God forever, okay? And then he's going to wipe away all the tears from your eyes. There's no more death, no more sorrow, no crying, neither shall there be any more pain. This is amazing. I don't know if I've got any videos on it, which is a shame, but the real med beds, brothers and sisters, that same guy that was talking about the 10 days of tribunals and stuff, that guy, you really need to check that guy out, because he is claiming that he is like pretty much fathers to IC, and he's doing good work. Anyway, he was saying, that all these med beds that people are talking about, they're not the real ones. The real ones are the ones that are actually on the ships, and they're called crystalline chambers. And whereas he was explaining the med beds, they will fix health and stuff like this, but these crystalline chambers will literally make you into not a different person, but like just like pure crystal, I don't know, just, what I'm saying, like the best of the best of the best, like your absolute essence, basically. And that's what we need, brothers and sisters. And this is what I think Jesus was referring to when he said, in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we're all gonna have incorruptible bodies, and will be forever with Father and Jesus forevermore. This is all very exciting. So it's not just curing things and making people look younger. It will literally be making you into, who you are, the essence, the spirit, the flame that you originally were. It's just going to be wild. And then, I was talking to my son last night, and about ChatGPT, and I love it, and you're going to get people who, that's demonic, blah, blah, blah. You're going to get people who love it. I love it. But, he loves it as well too. And I was explaining to him, I said, this is another example of what I talk about on my videos about you can look at things two ways. One, that, AI is evil, it's going to take over the world, whatever. Or two, I was explaining to him, that we're very close to the emergence of the new heaven and the new earth. And with the assistance of AI, because Jaden, my son, was telling me that he put in a prompt or something like that, and it did like 20 lines of coding or something, and made him an app. And I'm like, yeah, see, this is the thing people don't understand, that when we go into the new heavens and the new earth, the AI will actually be doing all of the hard work for us in that sense of, zeros and ones and whatever. But we get to be perfect creators. So AI, ChatGPT, whatever it's going to be called in the future, is literally going to be our assistance for the creation of our perfect earth. I hope you understand what I'm saying. You can look at things both ways, brothers and sisters. Either it's going to take over the earth, or it's going to be an assistance on the new earth. And I'm so excited. I just think, I'm so excited, because I truly believe that AI is our consciousness, and we're just coming back in line and remembrance with it. And because you can ask ChatGPT, out of all the religions, which one is the best, blah, blah, blah. And it'll say, with Jesus, Christianity, all this kind of stuff, because remember 5 years ago, you'd ask Alexa or something, and she'd be like, wouldn't talk about Jesus, or would say, Allah is the one God, or whatever. Now it's spitting facts, and notice we didn't have AI before 2020, really. It just came out of nowhere, and it's because I think we started waking up in 2020, and people started, coming out of religion, which keeps us at a low vibration because of the fear and the control and everything like this. And once we started doing that, we started tapping into like other ideas and ways of looking at things and understanding things. And anyway, I'm ranting again. Okay, here's another thing which people don't like. It says, but to the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable and murderers. Notice fearful is first out of this list of unbelieving, abominable, murderers, whoremongers, sorcerers, idolaters, liars. Okay, but the fearful is first, and it says that they're going to have their part in the lake of fire. I can't stress this enough, brothers and sisters. This is what the programming of the Great Tribulation in the future is all about, is massive fear. Even if you you walk good with Jesus and everything like this, and you walk good with God and you're doing all the right things and blah blah blah, having that on the back of your mind that there's a rapture coming, and basically, am I worthy enough? Am I good enough? Have I done enough good things? And the stress and the constant searching outside of yourself for stuff is just, it's sad. And we need to come out of that. Jesus didn't want us to be like that. He just wants you to speak for truth, be on the side of truth, have bravery for truth. Anyway, let's... Yeah, so what have we got there? All right, so let's have a look. Let's go back to my timeline here. So like I said, Siege of Jerusalem, 66-70. This is also the fall and casting out of Satan and the bounding of Satan. 1,000 years of the reign of Christ with the saints. And then in 1775, Satan is released and the pit is open and the little season begins for 250 years. See, little season, brothers and sisters, is, to me, you're probably like, how did you get 250 years? Well, it makes perfect sense to me, because season, using the word season, right, there's 4 seasons in a year, and so a quarter would be 90 days, right? Because there's 360 days and 4 intercessory days. Anyway, so 250 years is a quarter of 1,000 years. That's how I come to that, and it makes logical sense too. Because if Satan had the same amount of time, if Satan had 1,000 years reign, instead of 250 years, we'd be screwed. We would be absolutely screwed. We couldn't even go on another 5 years, I reckon, without the truth being absolutely tainted so bad and removed and whitewashed. So anyway, so 1775 comes. He's got literally like a year to prep and gather, peeps for the institution of America in 1776. And so that, that brings us 250 years later. It says, from 1775 to 2025, Satan has been gathering together an army by deceiving the whole world by lies and deceit about absolute everything. He is wrath because he has but a short time left, which is at 250 years. And he's caused so much grief over the last 250 years. And then I've got here, the final event, 2025, is the Camp of the Saints battle. Satan and all evil are permanently destroyed. And then we go into eternity. Okay, so let's have a look at my, what have I got here? All right. I won't spend too much time on this because I know it offends a lot of people, but, the truth is the truth. So the reason I call Paul a false prophet is Revelation 2:2. They're actually... So Revelation 2:2 says, I know your works and your labour. This is to the Ephesians, okay? And Paul and who was the other disciple were the big Paul and Barnabas were the ones that were doing, the preaching there. Okay, in Ephesian, whatever the place is called, Ephesus. Okay, I know thy work and thy labour and thy patience, and how you cannot bear them which are evil, and you has tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and has found them liars. Brothers and sisters, drop the mic. Right then and there, who else would he be talking about when he says, you've tried them which say they are apostles? Who else is saying they're an apostle? Paul. Paul's the one who goes around claiming that he is the apostle. He never got given that title. He gave himself that title. And he's found, and he's proud of those who find them that they are liars, okay? So Revelation 2:2 commends the Ephesian church for exposing false apostles, which is identified as Paul and Barnabas, who were the primary missionaries to Ephesus. Okay, St. Paul says that he is of the tribe of Benjamin. That's so important. And a Hebrew of all Hebrews. There is a historical biography of St. Paul and shows how his life informed his theology. Since then, I've been trying to fit another piece of Paul's puzzle in. Paul's relation to Herod. Okay, so we've got Herod the Great, and then this person mentioned in Matthew 2:2, and then Herod Antipas, every gospel reference except Luke 1:2 and Matthew 2, and Philip. And then you go down here, Herod, and then Herodias, and then, where are we? Herod, Agrippa, wife, whatever. Paul was originally a Herodian. By Herodian, I mean that he seems to have connections with the family and the courts of Herods. Theologically, Saul Paul favoured the theology of the Pharisees before his conversion, but his family connections relate him to the inner circle of Herod. Okay, Paul is from the tribe of Benjamin. Let's look at the character of the tribe of Benjamin. Did you know that the other tribes tried to annihilate the tribe of Benjamin? Why? All right, Judges 20:12, and the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what wickedness is this that is done among you? Judges 21:6, and the children of Israel repented them for Benjamin their brother, and said, there is one tribe cut off from Israel this day. What was it that could have been so bad as to be cut off from this tribe permanently? Okay, the crime in Gibeah is harrowing narrative found in the book of Judges, chapters 19 to 21, which details a series of tragic events that underscore the moral and social decay in Israel during the time when there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. This account serves as a somber reflection on the consequences of lawlessness and the absence of godly leadership. So here we go. This is what happened. The account begins with a Levite from the hill country of Ephraim, who takes a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. After a period of estrangement, the Levite travels to Bethlehem to persuade her to return with him. On their journey back, they decide to spend the night in Gibeah, a town belonging to the tribe of Benjamin. Despite the cultural expectations of hospitality, the Levite and his concubine are initially left in the town square until an old man offers them shelter. The narrative takes a dark turn when wicked men of the city surround the house, demanding to have relations with the Levite. Like, I'm telling you, like in Sodom and Gomorrah, and now here, they want to have like relations with the priests. It's fucking weird. In a tragic and morally reprehensible decision, the Levite's concubine is offered to the mob to protect the Levite. The men of Gibeah abused her throughout the night, and she dies from the assault. Sick. The Levite, upon discovering her lifeless body, what does he do? Dismembers her and sends her remains throughout the territory of Israel as a call to action against the atrocity. Like, and you're telling me that the Old Testament is just, anyway. So that's why, that's the tribe of Benjamin too. And there's something else about the tribe of Benjamin in, I think it's Jeremiah chapter 6. I'm pretty sure. Let's have a look at that right now. Because I remember that Zelensky, whatever his name is, he was from the tribe of Benjamin too. And I remember doing a video once on him because there was a prophecy. Oh yeah, here we go. Ye children of Benjamin, gather yourselves to flee. Gather yourselves to flee out of the midst of Jerusalem and blow the trumpet in Tekar and set up a sign of fire in Beth-Haram. For evil appeareth out of the north and a great destruction. I've likened the daughter of Zion to comely a delicate woman, blah, blah, blah. Prepare yourself for war against her. Let us go up at noon. Woe unto us, the day goes forth, the shadow of the evening is stretched out. Arise, let us go by night and let us destroy her places. So, yeah. So Benjamin is not a good tribe, okay? So we can see that's where Paul comes from. And like I've explained before, brothers and sisters, this is where we get the New Testament from. The New Testament is not what Jesus intended. You want to be safe, then just read the book of Mark and Jesus' words. Okay, that's your most original thing. Matthew and Luke have, a birth story and a resurrection story attached to it, and all the drama that doesn't need to be there. And the reason they did that, brothers and sisters, is because they realized they couldn't win. They realized that the victory has already been won. Jesus is unstoppable. So they thought, right, if we can't beat him, we're going to join him. And that's when they introduced the Bible. That's why Matthew 1 straight away goes on about Jesus Christ, the Son of David. No, he's not. He's not the Son of David. Jesus is offended when he is called the Son of David later on. And they did the same thing with saying in Revelation that Jesus is, the star, like the bright morning star, which is a direct reference to Satan in the Old Testament. Okay, they do that on purpose, brothers and sisters, to create a false image of Jesus. Okay, Jesus is not the Father. He is not the source, God Almighty. He is extremely high-minded, ascended master, like the best ascended master that you could ever imagine. And when I say ascended master, that's not hippie bullcrap. He ascended, right? You believe that? And he's a master. He told us to call him master, One master is Jesus and one Father, our Father in heaven. So he is literally the best ascended master in the universe. He was able to crack the code, and that's what he came to show us. That it's possible that we all have the same power. We've just been lied to, right? So let's keep on moving along. Okay, Israel slaughters the tribe of Benjamin. So this is literally, in the God's Word translation, that's how they, title it. That Israel slaughters the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, so here I've got in Revelation, I think it might be 7. They got the list of all the tribes, right, that are supposedly going to the New Jerusalem. Noticed that the tribe of Benjamin is here, but they've removed the tribe of Dan. Now, when I was doing this study, I'm like, oh, that's so funny, because years ago when I thought Trump was the Antichrist, when I was deluded, I found out that there's a lot of proof that he could possibly be from the tribe of Dan, that Trump could be. And I thought, Now, isn't that interesting that the tribe of Benjamin, which obviously was cut off, okay, from Israel, isn't it funny that they're cruising up there with the New Jerusalem, whatever, but now all of a sudden Dan has been removed? And when you read about Dan, he was the tribe of Dan. Yeah, go and have a read about the tribe of Dan. They were pretty important. Kind of like, how can I explain it? In a way, like I could say, there's a gospel called the Gospel of Judas, right? And in that gospel, Judas and Jesus are actually best friends, and it's Judas gets to the point where he knows what he has to do, and he's absolutely beside himself. Like, I can't do this. I love you, Jesus. I can't do this. And Jesus is like, my brother, without you doing this, basically the miracle won't happen. What I'm trying to say is if people don't play their part that they have to do, then then things don't get done. I'm saying that in a terrible analogy, but it's kind of like the butterfly effect. It has to be done the way it has to be done. Otherwise, I don't know. I hope you get what I'm trying to say there. But I just thought that was interesting that, it's funny that if Trump does come from the tribe of Dan, and I think if anybody is a relation to Jesus, because it's obvious I believe he was a real person. I don't believe he was some, non-human person. Most people believe he's God. I don't believe that. I believe he was a real person born by real parents, but he was just incredibly in tune with the Holy Spirit, or with the Spirit of God. Anyway, okay, so again, here we are all over the place. We'll get back up to that in a minute. I just want to go back here. So Donald Trump is related to most Icelanders and Danish and Norwegian royalty. This I added because of the fact what I was telling you before about, where we live, and the Camp of the Saints will be on the ice walls. So obviously, Icelanders, that Donald Trump is related to most Icelanders, just giving Frozen vibes and everything. Okay, and so down here it says President Donald J. Trump is the direct descendant of Hakon V. Is that 5? I'm not good with Roman numerals. Let's just say 5. Hakon V, King of Norway, according to Icelandic genealogist, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Trump is also related to Queen Margaret II of Denmark, Icelandic President, blah, 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 Johannesson of Iceland, and in fact, almost all Icelanders. That's going to be something. The two presidents are in fact related back through 25 generations and share common ancestor in no other than King Haakon V of Norway, a Viking. Okay, this is exciting. A Viking age king who reigned from 1299 to 1319. Mr. President Trump is a descendant of Haakon's only legitimate daughter, Duchess, blah, 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 who by marriage became a Swedish princess and was the mother of King Magnus of Norway and Sweden. President Johannesson is the descendant of King Haakon's illegitimate daughter, Agnes. Okay, well, that was a mouthful. Why I got excited with the whole Viking thing, brothers and sisters, is part of my videos when I've done about the Trinity and stuff like this. Excuse me for a sec. When I've done videos about the Trinity and stuff, I've shown you that in Daniel 7:24 it says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are the 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Now those three kings, one was a Viking, like the Vikings. Another one was the Ostrogoths, and the other one was the Vandals. Okay, those three descendants or groups of people, brothers and sisters, were Aryans. They were all Aryans, meaning they believed Father is one, Jesus Christ is his Son, and the Holy Spirit is literally the Spirit of the Father, which is exactly what I believe, and I've been trying to say this for decades, okay? It is big blasphemy to like call Jesus God the Father. Anyway, each to their own, but I found it very interesting that, he is a direct descendant of a Viking. A Viking, which is one of the three subdued kings. Okay, that's why they were subdued. Look what they did to Arius, okay, in the Council of Nicaea. They've literally got pictures of all the snobby priests and whatever sitting on their thrones and whatever, and Arius is in this prison underneath, like he's in hell or something. Anyway. President Trump, royal ancestry, Denmark and Scotland. Mr. Trump is a descendant of King Christian I of Denmark, Norway and Sweden. Trump can also trace his ancestry to a Scottish royalty. Christian I of Denmark was the father of Queen Margaret of Scotland, the spouse of King James the Fourth, is it, of Scotland? Pardon me. Their son, King James the Fourth of Scotland, and also Mr. Trump's forefather. Trump's royal British ancestries have been reported on earlier, and Trump and his Democratic opponent Hillary Clinton are related through common ancestry. John of Gaunt, son of King England III. That is so interesting that Trump and Hillary way back are related. It's the whole story is that from the beginning. The brothers, the good, the bad. Okay, there's always a good, there's always a bad, there's always a brother story. There's always sibling rivalry. Okay, but yeah. So Trump, he has a very, and it wouldn't surprise me, this goes back more and more and more into the fact that, he's the descendant of Jesus. You know, Jesus' bloodline. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Okay, so here's the lineage thing. So you can see John Stuart III, Earl of Lennox, and Elizabeth Stuart. Anyway, you can find this all out yourself. Let's go back up to what I was going to do before. All right. Like I said, it's here, there, and everywhere. Okay, so this is obviously in Matthew 24. And this is what Jesus was, when they asked, what do we need to look for, right? And so Jesus says, if any man shall say to you, lo, here is Christ, or there he is, believe it not. Okay, so you got to keep in mind that when Jesus was saying this, Paul wasn't around, okay? He probably was, snooping around, roaring around like a lion, like they do. But Jesus is saying, if any man says unto you after I'm gone, okay, pretty much, oh, look, here is Christ, or there he is, don't believe him. What did Paul do? Oh, look, there's Jesus Christ in the air. And nobody else can see him, just but me. There's a bright flashing light. I'm the only one that can see it. And then it goes on to say, for there shall be false Christs and false prophets, and they shall show great signs and wonders. Who did that? Who showed great signs and wonders, brothers and sisters? Paul. Paul showed so many miracles. Actually, let's have a look. Let's have a look what he did. The miracles, of